Hello and welcome to the Beat Tool Quick Start tutorial. We'll cover the basics of how to use the chaos feature, create beat prototypes, and search the beat catalog. There are several other tutorials that go into more detail. This one is just meant to get you started. If the Beat tool isn't already open, navigate to it using the button in the upper left corner of your screen. In the lower left corner, you'll find the big yellow chaos button. Click it and ProtoMusician will search for a set of beat patterns based on rules or criteria such as a range of tempos, the desired drum pieces to include, and so on. Chaos is like a search engine that browses an enormous catalog of sound patterns and plays back one that meets your criteria. When you first open ProtoMusician, a set of default chaos rules is used. There are also a few preset rules in the drop-down. Go ahead and experiment by selecting a set of rules and then clicking the chaos button. Here's an example of a beat comprised of only hi-hats. You can also edit these rules or create your own rules, which is explained in detail in another tutorial. As you can see, by clicking the chaos button, ProtoMusician fills out the grid on the right with patterns of notes on several drum pieces. As you've probably learned in music class or through lessons, each column of the grid represents a 16th note in 4/4 timing, and only the checked notes are played. The backbone of ProtoMusician is the use of a method called prototyping. A prototype is just a rough working idea. It's not the whole song, it's just a measure or two. Prototypes simply demonstrate an idea. They don't have to be perfect, and how you end up using them in a song may evolve over time. You'll create hundreds of prototypes in the software, and may only use a handful of really good ones in your songs. You can edit prototypes to your liking by simply checking and unchecking the boxes, selecting new instruments, clearing rows, or changing the settings above, like tempo. Then click the play button on the bottom to hear your changes. The toolbar on top of the screen allows you to create new prototypes, save them, copy them, rename them, delete them, and play back saved ones. Click the catalog button and you can browse the patterns and place them into the prototyping grid by clicking the arrow next to a row. So you have three options for creating a beat. Use the chaos feature, transfer patterns from the catalog, or manually check the boxes yourself. When you're done editing, set the number of times you want to hear the prototype played back up here. Then click the play button at the bottom. To interrupt playback at any time, press the escape key on your keyboard. Click the face button to slow down the beat and highlight the notes as they're played. Or click the X button at the bottom to clear the prototyping area, or any X next to a row to clear that row. To set the notes to other instruments besides drums, click the Morph toggle button and then click play. We'll talk more about that later. Let's take a moment to appreciate the power of the beat catalog. If you're new to music theory, we'll quickly start with the basics of time signatures. For advanced musicians, hopefully this review provides some additional perspective on timing. There are over 65,000 possible patterns of 16th notes within a measure, and I'd like you to understand exactly where they came from. You can start by tapping your foot 4 times. Now do it again and clap your hands twice for every foot tap. Now do it again, only this time clap your hands 4 times for every foot tap. You've just made one measure of music that's 4 foot taps long. In music theory, your foot taps are called fourth notes or quarter notes because there are 4 of them in one measure. When you clapped your hands twice for every foot tap, the notes are called eighth notes because 8 of them fit in one measure. When you clap your hands 4 times for every foot tap, they're called 16th notes because there are 16 of them in one measure. Grouping 4 quarter notes to make one measure is arbitrary. There are other ways to do it, such as 5 quarter notes in a measure or 6. As far as ProtoMusician goes, we're going to stick with the simple convention of 4 notes per measure. This is also called 4/4 timing because there are 4 fourth notes in the measure. Now look at the 16th notes you played by clapping your hands. What if you skipped every 4th clap like this? Or what if you skipped different ones like this? What if you changed it up again? So it turns out there are exactly 65,535 unique ways to clap your hands using 16th notes in one measure. These 16th note patterns clearly have a use in creating drum beats, but also are the building blocks of chord progressions for guitar, piano, and other instruments. What you choose to do with those 16 opportunities to play in a measure is up to you. Applying this concept to a drum set, there are 65,535 ways to play a bass drum, 65,535 ways to play a snare drum, and so on. Take this example where a bass drum uses the 1st, 9th, and 11th note to play, and a snare drum uses the 5th and 13th to play. How about another example where the bass drum plays on the 1st, 3rd, 9th, and 13th, and the snare drum plays on the 5th and 14th. Since both the bass and snare can play their own unique patterns, the total number of combinations of bass and snare are 65,000 times 65,000, which is over 4 billion. Well, what happens if we add a 3rd drum piece, a bass and snare pattern with an additional cymbal pattern? Well, then there are about 300 trillion combinations. It would be impossible to even listen to that many combinations in one lifetime, but ProtoMusician has every possible combination built in, just in case you want to try. And you can think beyond drums as well here. There are about 300 trillion ways for any 3 instruments to play a measure of music. That could be a banjo, a flute, and a ukulele. And as advertised, any 10 drum pieces, or any 10 instruments playing at the same time, will have 1 quindecillion ways to play a measure. Well, it's going to be fun just to explore the Beat Tool, but I think the real goal is to play real music on a real instrument. Try some of these ways to use the tool. Create a beat, and then play along on it with your own instrument. If you're a drummer, use it to learn new rhythm patterns you've never played before. If you're not a drummer, you can still use the catalog to create new rhythm patterns for a chord progression, for example. There are 65,535 rhythm patterns available that you can play a chord with. You can use the tool to inspire new song ideas, or record beats into multi-track software and create loops, or to add unique fills or beats to songs you're already writing. Or turn ProtoMusician on, amp it up, and let your band improvise as it plays. Well, that's your quick start on the Beat Tool for now. I hope you're starting to discover that there's a lot to do in ProtoMusician. Take some time to experiment and then continue on watching the next tutorial.